This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 100.
It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it.
I know it's
triple-digit show.
I know our first triple-digit show, and I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin.
Turbo Penguin #100.
Just Turbo Penguin.
So, Turbo, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Not too much. Nothing to complain about.
Good.
So, yeah.
I mean, nothing to complain about in your personal life, but plenty to complain about in this podcast, because...
that is so true.
Oh, man. The gaming industry, guys. We started this show 100 episodes ago, and we started it when Intel was having a really rough go of things, and every bit of it was self-inflicted.
And nothing has changed.
Yeah, it's sad how little has changed. Pardon me. Must have been some bad news going the wrong way down my throat.
I know, right?
So yeah, we wanted to talk about the couple of new news leaks that or releases that have come out, specifically starting with the 5-layer DLSS slop sandwich that we have now. Turbo, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos or screenshots of the games running DLSS 5. I have my take on it, but what do you think about DLSS 5?
The problem that I have about DLSS 5 is a couple of things. Like, if I was a game designer, I'd be a little not super happy.
Yep. And we're hearing that from some game designers too.
Because it's like, great. So you have these people who say, well, that's how I've meant to do it, right? Like how it's meant to be played, right?
Yep.
And it was always based off of the creativity of the game developer. And I'd make the argument that what DLSS 5 is doing is changing how the game is to be played. And
sure.
The question is the follow-up question I would have is like, is this how the game developer meant it to be played? The other half of it is I know that there will be some that will look at it and say it's actually better. And I can see that piece too. I don't know. I don't really. I don't know. It's hard because I really think it's changing so much of it.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I'd have to see it in person, but I will say, if that's a way of using those AI, those cores that you never use to enhance your game, maybe we finally found a use for those tensor cores after all.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then I'd be at least open to at least looking at it. Now, could it enhance other portions of a game? Possibly. It would be nice if they allowed the game developers to harness that and use it for specific features.
Sure.
Because that's been my complaint. Like, if you look at RTX and you look at all of these, the AI cores and the ray tracing cores, it's like, great. I don't use it unless you turn on ray tracing.
Yeah.
And so this is probably from my view, I could see this being a useful way of actually getting some benefit from features that I think I'll say this, I personally don't use.
Yeah. Sure.
But I will also say there is something funky about it. I'm not I'm not fully sold um on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels odd and weird. Um, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways it kind of increases the uncanny valley sense that I have. Particularly looking at the Resident Evil 9 shots, one of the things that I don't like that it does is it evens out all the lighting. And it just says, okay, everything's lit the same now, which completely defeats the purpose of dramatic lighting in a game. Um, I think some of the screenshots from Starfield looked a little bit better, but Starfield is such a steaming pile of dung as it is that, eh, you know. But when we're
I'll say this, the I could see a benefit here on some things. You know, how interesting would it be is if you could take an older game,
Mhm,
turn on DLSS,
they did that
and you know modernize it. I mean,
on the
because let's
fly,
be
modernize
honest,
it. Yeah.
what if someone was to go out there and make Half-Life 3 that Valve refuses to make, and then you turn on DLSS and it's like, hey, holy crap, it's a brand new game.
Well, they
Could
kind of
be
have that.
interesting.
Yeah, there, as I recall, there was a project for both Half-Life and Half-Life 2 to add
Yeah,
RTX, which, I think significantly increased the visual quality.
yeah.
But the problem with DLSS is it's not trained on the specific games. This is just a generic model that they apply to everything. I
Well,
think
let's
what
also let's be honest here. The what we're seeing from Nvidia is best case,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Without a doubt, this is the absolute best that you're going to get out of DLS. Well, let me revisit. They put their best foot forward.
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, they always do. That's the whole
exactly.
point of a press conference and showing off, "Oh, hey, this is what you can do." Now there are plenty of people who say, "Oh, I think it looks better." Okay, great. Use it. Good. I don't. I don't think it improves the visual quality. I think it takes away from the artistic expression of the original developers, especially in games like Resident Evil, um, specifically Resident Evil Requiem. And, it alters characters. Uh, it makes Grace's lips fuller. So, she's almost practically doing the duck face when you turn on the 5-layer slop cake. Um, it really, the thing it really screws with the most is the lighting, and whether or not that is realistic or more realistic, I genuinely don't give a rip, because those games are built around the artists having control over what's going on with the lighting at any given time. And when you let an AI model artificially glob that stuff together, it's not going to be what the artist intended. And, if you like that, that's fine. And I can see in some instances where, if a game like Resident Evil is just too dark for you to play, turning that on and making the environment brighter, better lit, and easier to use
But
might
I
get you to
mean, can't
experience
you?
something. Okay,
Okay,
sure.
can't you just do that by turning on settings in your monitor or even within whatever respective um you do? I mean, that's the thing that gets
Yes and
me.
no. Yeah, some games don't let you do that. And that's the drawback. That's the fault of the developer in that instance. Um, and I don't know that Resident Evil Requiem lets you do that either. But I know
I mean,
there
but
are
I could
brightness
go into my
controls, but it's a
monitor
pretty
settings
bright.
I mean, I can go in my monitor settings and increase my
Your gamma and your
brightness.
brightness. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that. I mean, there's ways around it. Like if that's what you're trying to do.
Without
I
driving
mean,
memory prices through the roof for everybody else. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying,
But,
but
I think when Nvidia started pushing AI with their RTX cards, I was expecting game developers to get off their ass and actually do something interesting with it. Like, "Hey, we've got this extra horsepower we can use to run our game AI for it." Like, we could run enemy AI off the graphics card. Great. We can get more better equipped AI, train a model on our game to respond to players, and feed that model into the GPU and have it drive the AI characters. I mean, for crying out loud, one guy who has a turtle for an avatar is doing that with an AI that he's developed. Like, Neurosama runs on 4090 or 5090, and it actually plays games directly, not through like a human following commands or anything like that. It's actually interfacing with the game. And it's the fact that these AAA studios haven't bothered to do that with a game yet, at least as far as I'm aware, is kind of a sign of the times for gaming in general. Like, gaming really seems to be falling off in not just the PC environment, but I'm seeing a lot of people just giving up on gaming. And it's all around what's going on now with the cost of memory and the AI crap and just games being garbage and buggy and annoying and filled with stupid ideologies that people try to push on others.
well, I mean, that's the challenge that the next generation is going to have, because the honest truth is that if you're not going to, um, realistically, um, if it's too expensive to build a PC, they don't.
Yeah.
And if it's too expensive to build a PC, then they sit there and say that, then that pushes them into that. I mean,
Yep.
the cost of getting into PC gaming has increased dramatically.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're really going to get, um, gamers to really come into this space because of how expensive it is.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes the migration from console to PC significantly harder, but at the same time, that all of this crap is making it harder to get a console even. Because yeah, I think I honestly think that while we kind of boo-hooed $799 for the PS5 Pro, I think we're gonna see the regular PS5 go for that price eventually, just because memory is that expensive. I mean, what is a 64 gig kit of DDR5 that in November went for $200 now is going for $1,000. It's gone up 5x. And, you know, that's hitting console manufacturers as well. It will probably take them longer to do because they have existing stock of both memory for consoles they're making and existing stock of consoles ready to sell. But once that stuff starts dwindling, those prices are going to start going up. And I wouldn't be surprised if, even though they still have stock that they made with the cheaper memory, they're going to start charging those higher prices because, well, they can get away
They
with it.
can. I mean, well,
Yeah. And I
the
don't
honest
blame
truth
them.
is, I don't blame them either. I mean, if that's the cost of doing business, that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And
And if you can get a little extra profit ahead of kind of getting screwed on the whole deal, I mean, I'm not the guy to get on his knees for the $1 billion corporation, but at the same time, it's business,
I mean,
and I get
the
it.
problem is that I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're using graphics cards for things that were never really designed for it, right?
Yeah.
The people looked at these graphics and are like, "Hey, I could use that for something else."
Yep.
And that's the downside, is that it's like you shouldn't have had to get to that point. And my hope is that, in all honesty, that maybe there comes around a time where AI is using something more specialized and more um, unique,
Mhm.
that it's not something that we're gamers necessarily, you know, are the ones to pay. Because I think that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is stuff that it's like, why is it like that? Well, it's because, you know, that's what's available. And
Yeah.
when AI moves on from something like that, you know, then, you know, I think that it'll be very different.
Yep.
But until that, I just don't know if it's, you know, if that's gonna necessarily gonna happen.
I I I doubt it will. And to be perfectly blunt, I think unless this whole situation with moving AI models to inference over over compute, unless that happens, we're going to be screwed for the foreseeable future. The interesting thing is, I've seen some articles talking about new technologies that GPUs cannot compete with that are based on optical processing, optical data transfer within silicon, and all of that being able to handle the various forms of math that are required for AI processing, but also doing it much faster
Well,
and lower powered than GPUs.
did you see the test system that Intel was showing off, where they were accessing decrypted um, information without decrypting it and writing it without encrypting it? And so the notion with that
Interesting.
is that with the processor was so quick at doing that specific task that it doesn't decrypt it, so thus it never deals with unencrypted data.
Hmm.
And so the absolute benefit for something like this is that you never have data that's, you know, raw and out in the
You
open.
never, yeah, you're never working with plain text. That's,
Yeah,
hmm.
really
Okay.
interesting, um, very unique way of looking at it.
Yeah. That's, I mean, if you can bypass the whole decryption and encryption chain, then, score. Um,
So now, with that being said, there's a lot of, you know, processing power that needs to go in to be able to do that. But, you know, if you could do that,
mhm.
it's a really interesting way, that from a security perspective is really going to change a lot.
Yeah.
Now, we'll see how that actually turns out. I would be totally open for doing that. The question is that if everyone is dealing with encrypted information, then, you know, I make the argument, then, you know, our data security is going to be through the roof.
Mhm.
Like, that's the cool thing about all.
Yep.
So, anyways, I kind of interesting way of looking at it. You know, we'll see kind of how some of that goes in. I really do think that eventually graphics cards are not going to be the way that people do AI.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's,
think it's gonna
but
change too.
I think it'll change. As the question is when.
Yep.
And the other piece is that will have killed off the graphics markets. Like, well, you know, AMD and Intel, and have they say, well, we can make more money doing this,
I don't think
you
it's gonna
know, on the
completely
data
kill it
center.
off, but yeah. I think what's probably gonna happen is what we're seeing now, where just the market kinda dwindles to an idle state for a while just because everything's so ridiculously expensive. And like Jay's 2 cents was saying in his video today, PC gaming's become a market of just for the wealthy people at this point. And the only reason we have, decently high-end PCs is because we happen to get in just at the end before everything went boom. Um, but yeah, I think what's going to end up happening is, um, once once whatever happens that causes AI to no longer be economically viable on a GPU, it's going to end up being just home gamers using their GPUs for AI, and data centers are going to move on to something else that's orders of magnitude more power efficient, like the optical stuff I'd seen a few videos on. Um, because until that happens, I think things are just going to keep getting worse. We're going to keep seeing all these issues come into play with memory and driving the cost of pretty much every device that uses any sort of random access or solid state storage through the roof, because data centers need it. But the optical stuff apparently doesn't even need RAM outside of, a system to feed the data, and at that point you don't need that much RAM to copy a file over a network. So, you know, we'll see how that goes and kind of how that shakes out. But Microsoft is shaking things up a little bit on the Xbox side. There's been a lot
Yeah.
of talk with them potentially just canning consoles altogether and going to this third-party handheld deal, something like the Steam Deck, but running a terrible implementation of Windows 11. There's been some talk of Microsoft opening up their stuff on the console side to Steam even, which we had seen in the past, because Sony, for a while, you could connect your PS3 to Steam and download PlayStation games through Steam. So,
Hmm.
I the whole Xbox thing is kind of weird because from what I recall, they didn't say that they were actually getting out of the consoles. In fact, this last update kind of hinted that they were going to have another console in the future. The
And in all
question is
honesty,
when.
but when we looked at it, they weren't really well defined at what they were going to do.
No.
And I think that's, in all honesty, um, some of the challenge that people have um, with all of this, because it's like, I don't know. It has the odd sinking suspicion that um, we're not seeing the whole picture when it comes um, into a lot of this.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, all we have to go on is what Microsoft said and the various leaks as well. And,
it'd be nice if they just came out and told us what the heck they were doing. I mean,
right?
how nice would that be? And my guess is eventually they will.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a matter of time, but they're going to have to really change some of this up and say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it.
Yep.
And get to a point of being a little bit more open about it. But I think that the reason that they're not being super open about it is because I don't think they know.
No, and that actually is kind of where I'm thinking too, is that they don't know where their next step is going to be, because this memory deal has kind of blown that part of their business out of the water, even though
Well,
the
not only
memory deal
just
is,
theirs. I
yeah,
mean, it's
well,
not just
everybody's.
them. I
Um,
mean, how many people are struggling? I mean, everyone is struggling to figure out what they're going to do. They
yep,
know they want to sell things, but I mean, the honest truth is that I think there's probably some people who are looking at this saying, maybe I need to start looking at, you know, computer as a service, um,
yeah,
where you pay monthly to have access to it, and
yep.
maybe you don't have. I hope not, because I think that's a horrible way to do it. In fact, to be honest, I wouldn't do it.
Nope, neither would
Um,
I.
but
But it kind of aligns with the whole "you'll own nothing and like it" ethos that a lot of game companies are starting to adopt, or have been adopting for quite some time. EA and Ubisoft are two great examples of that. Um, and yeah, I don't like the prospect of cloud computing and thin clients and stuff like that, because basically we're regressing to the mid 60s to late 80s at that point, where you go into your office, and instead of having a PC that is just yours, you're sharing resources with everybody else in the company.
Mhm.
And it can be useful. I think what we're going to start seeing is businesses adopting that first and going back to the mainframe model, where if, you're a work from home employee, they just send you a thin client that all it's got is a BIOS and a couple of USB ports and some display ports
I mean,
and the
the
network.
honest truth is that a lot of what IT was doing back in the day, um, was legitimately doing just that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
well, what's funny is in some situations I actually have to do that for my day job. I have to log in through remote desktop to a jump box that connects me to a virtual machine that I then use to do X, Y, or Z process. And, it's for my employer, it makes sense because that's not only data security for the company, it's also data security for the customers, because in some of those instances, I may be accessing customers' data through an environment. And, even though they gave me this piece of crap Dell with, I think it's like an A400 Nvidia GPU. I forget. It's whatever their Quadro or whatever it is line. Um, and, if they can set me up with that, then they don't need to send me a $2,000-3,000 Dell. They could send me a couple $100 thin client and just say, here, log in this way.
I
Wouldn't make
look
much difference to me.
for from a from a from a business perspective, I can see how there's a lot of benefits of doing that because, again, you know, a cheap piece that an end user uses without, and then being able to have access to the expensive stuff where you have better control over it does make a lot of sense from an
Yeah.
IT perspective. Um, from a gaming perspective, the latency is what's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But again, that's where some of the pros and cons. Some of these people will look at that, computer as a service, will go and um, it'll be interesting to kind of see how some of that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a new topic, new view of hardware for the IT side of things.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. And I
the
mean,
question is, does that maybe ramp up?
I could see it ramping up even for for the home market, but not necessarily for gaming. Um, I S- Stadia, I no, it's not Stadia. It's GeForce Now is decent. Um, the latency isn't too bad for me, but you know, I've got fiber. I'm in a major metropolitan area, and you know, I have good low latency connectivity to the outside world.
Well,
But for
okay,
somebody in the
agreed.
middle of Saskatchewan on Starlink might not have the same experience. So,
But you know what, though? This is what gets me. You're right. I can have really good latency. But again, I'm adding latency regardless of
yes.
how you look at it.
Yeah.
I press a key. It takes time to go there, get processed, and return, with the response of what I've done.
Yep.
And from a gaming perspective,
It's
yeah.
not great. No, I wholly agree. And I think for some people, um, you know, it could be a good option to hold you off. Let's say um, you know, somebody's just got one gaming PC, and at this point it's 3-4 years old, they're at the point where they would usually go for an upgrade and then their graphics card dies and they're stuck using processor graphics. That's where I think right now there is a use case for Stadia. I keep calling it it's GeForce now. Stadia is dead. Stadia is dead. um but yeah, that I think is kind of the problem though. Uh like you said, is it adds latency. So they're going to have to fix that. And I don't know that there is a way to fix that. Um because you get somebody who's a pro level player playing their Call of Duty match, that 30-40 milliseconds of latency between when you press the button and when the game actually responds, plus the latency to the rest of the network, is gonna suck, you know?
Yep.
Now, when you're talking things like iRacing, it's less of an issue. But
Well, look, the honest truth is that you're adding in latency,
yeah,
and people need to realize that if you're doing it, that's what the trade-off is. It's
sure.
100% what it is. No questions about it. So if this is the way it is, then you got to realize that when you die, it's because someone might have physical hardware and you're using virtual hardware. And I am not convinced that virtual hardware by itself doesn't also add in additional latency. So if I have
Mhm.
a 10 millisecond round time, there 10 milliseconds back, there's 20, there's processing time, there's accessing time. So does that latency trade off to not 20, but maybe 35 or 40? Very possible. I'm
Yeah.
not convinced that it's going to that remote hardware is faster than in-person hardware. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
yeah, I wholly agree. It won't be. Is it playable? Sure. Is it better? That
Look,
depends on a lot
if
of
you're in a
factors.
look, I mean,
Yeah,
and I made look, that's how all of, like GeForce now. If you're playing a single player game, if you're playing Resident Evil, great. It's a great way of playing that game. Don't I don't see the issue with that.
yeah,
Um, but where I do have the issue is when you're playing multiplayer games,
yeah,
and there is a competition at least in some point. So I don't like it. I prefer not to play that. And for me, I'll continue to have localized hardware because that's what it is. And because I have too many kids, I just have plenty of computers. So if my
sure.
machine dies, I can steal one of theirs.
Yeah, you could rob a
And it
1080
gives me,
Ti.
well, at this point, I think I probably need to start upgrading some of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I agree.
but yeah, that's the thing, and I kind of have a feeling that's probably where Xbox is going to wind up going, is to that virtualized hardware situation if the stuff doesn't calm down sometime soon. Microsoft already has the infrastructure in place to do that sort of service. Um, and I have played with it back when I was living in Reno. I actually played uh oh good grief. What's the zombie survival game that's sweaty as frick and based on Arma 3?
No
Is
idea.
it Oh, DayZ, that's what it is. I actually played DayZ on my PC through Microsoft's streaming app. And that's back when I was playing with their Xbox Pass or the Game Pass, and it wasn't a terrible experience. There were some instances um where it would get a lot of macro blocking where the compression would just kind of go crazy for a few seconds, but in general, it played reasonably well even on my 4K TV. And so, I'm no pro gamer. I'm as casual as you can get. And to be honest, that didn't really bother me a whole lot. But,
It's not that
you
I'm a
know,
professional gamer. but I would be not happy that I felt like I was at a disadvantage because I didn't have stuff
Sure.
localized. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that pisses me off about it. And I really am hoping that, people are smart enough to figure out how to do all of this and to get away from using graphics cards. And the honest truth is that I'm surprised that servers are still are using the same format as desktop computers as far as memory. I'm surprised that they're not using a higher bandwidth, higher speed, because in the past that's always been it. They've always had a unique difference between server side and client side, and
Yeah.
we're in the weird place where it's like, well, everyone's using the same stuff, and it's like that's the challenge. It's like, why are we all using the same stuff? Servers should be using a different subset.
Well, that's the thing. They haven't been for a long time, at least since Nehalem. Um, Servers have been in step, at least on the same memory generation as desktop PCs. The difference was that server memory tended to be much higher density and also included usually parity. So you had ECC. Um, and that's, I think, kind of what's hosing us now is the fact that, DDR5 between your desktop and the server in Microsoft's rack is functionally the same. It's the same chips. It's just they sometimes, depending on their spec, um, a lot of times they will add a parity chip to it. So that's just an extra piece of memory there to handle in case one of the sticks goes south. Um, the problem with that is that when we have a situation like OpenAI saying, "Okay, uh, yeah, SK Hynix, Samsung, give me all your allocation for the next year."
Mm-hmm.
That hits everybody, including just normal servers that have nothing to do with AI, because they all use the same memory. And then same thing on the GPU side. Those fabs are cranking out GDDR7 at the same time they're doing DDR5. And that memory ends up going to Nvidia or to, other vendors that use GDDR to power their devices. And we don't get it. And the reason we don't get it is because we're not the ones paying the huge sums of money to keep those fabs running. And it's just kind of a sad state of affairs. And I don't think anything's really going to save it short of either the bubble popping naturally with AI or some new technology that does to AI on GPUs what FPGAs did to crypto mining on GPUs. Um, and I don't know that we're going to have anything coming anytime soon. So I hope it's soon, but I
Yeah,
don't see it.
I don't see it. I'm going to be very interested to kind of see what the next, nine, this year, rolls out for us,
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily see anything really changing when it comes to um what's happened in the past. And so
Yeah.
if it hasn't changed now, um I just don't see it necessarily changing now. It's possible that there's technology that comes out where GPUs aren't the default, and maybe it goes away, like an A6 type of board,
Yep.
but that's not happening right now, guys, and
Nope.
I just don't see that happening. Um, Whoever can do that is going to do very well for themselves,
Sure.
you know. And
And
I think
they
they're
are
all
working on it.
trying. I think there's plenty of people who are legitimately trying because they know they can make a ton of money.
Mm.
So,
If they can
and on
figure it
that
out.
bombshell,
Yeah, on that bombshell. thank you all for watching. We appreciate you giving us a little bit of our time. Do remember to jump down the doobly-doo down below and give us a like and subscribe and toss a comment in there while you're at it to remind me to shine my dome or something. You know, make it funny. And yeah,
the best moose roast gets a like.
Deal. All right, I'll bite. So until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.